Hey, welcome back. We're kicking off brand new season 2. Thank you for listening to season 1, first of all. But now we are about to kick off season 2 of Elm Elaborates. As always, I'm here with Ryan Bono. We are going to do a deep dive into Lexington. I love this. I love the project. I mean, I was on the tail end. You did a
Yeah,
lot of the heavy lifting at the beginning.
you did a lot of
You
the
know,
middle. A
I
lot of
was
the
there.
middle.
I was
Yeah,
there. I was present. So I
yeah.
appreciate that. But we are just going to deep dive into it, and we're going to talk about our whole process of Lexington and what made this project so unique and so special to us, and all these different things that we had going on at the time, and how we came to have this beautiful building at the end.
Yeah, and so successful, right?
Yes, very successful.
Probably our most successful project
I'd say so.
to date.
Yeah, and I mean, we put a manned elevator in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
a
that was
personnel elevator is, wow, that's tricky.
yeah, yeah,
We knew it was gonna be tough, but
yeah,
yeah, there's parts and pieces to that thing, checklists,
yeah.
um, that you have to complete way before the inspector will even show up to the job site. Like so many things like that. That's just so involved.
Yeah.
Just so incredibly involved.
So let's just start off with this. I wasn't on the team at the time. So were you at the initial site walk? What was the talks at the very beginning on this building? You guys looked at it. Were you actually there? And what were the feels like on it?
Yeah, so I remember when Drake came into our office, 'cause me and Levi used to share an office, and he's like, "Hey, man," yeah, it was tight. Drake's like, "Hey guys, like I found this brewery, and there's a lot of projects that come across our desk. Like
Hmm.
probably 30 projects will come across our desk. Just discussions before it's like, hey, it's game time. Let's
Yeah.
actually move forward on this one." So I remember thinking like, no, that'd be too cool. Like that would be too cool to actually move
Yeah,
forward
this
with.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so obviously we went out there and we were looking around, and once the underwriting passed and all that kind of stuff, and like, okay, this is actually like a go. We went out there for the first time and we were just looking around. We were just amazed. We were so happy. The condition of the building was so clean, and we were fired up, And
Who all went?
it was me, Drake, Levi, Eric was there. Probably a couple others. John Serva for sure.
Okay.
And then a couple other people. But yeah, we were flying the drone around and taking a look, and I just remember thinking like this would be an awesome project. And when we're all there looking at it, we're all like fired up and getting ready to go, even
Yeah.
though it's like very early on. So we ended up then scheduling an actual site walk with all our subcontractors.
Okay.
And that was about 2 or 3 weeks later. And then when everyone took a look at it and there was like no real hurdles to jump, we were like, other than the elevator, we were talking about scabbing on the elevator to the outside because they make like prefab scab on elevators that basically you pour a pit off the side. You don't actually have to do it in the building.
All exterior?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
wow.
you just cut into the brick and then it pass throughs that way. But then we're expanding the footprint, and there were
Mm.
certain conditions where the city wasn't really, they didn't love that. So we kind of then had to do it inside. So there was a lot of talks about the elevator, and really the elevator was the only difficult hurdle for us.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk about this project before, like at the beginning. So what about the outbuilding though? Because these guys don't really know anything about Lexington and
Yeah.
like the amount of the property.
Yeah. So basically it's the property is a lot with 3 buildings on it.
Yeah, okay.
It's the brewery building, which is the building that's in fantastic shape. That was actually renovated in 2016.
Ooh.
Yeah, so when we bought it, we're like, wow, this is in great shape. Then there's a small building kind of in the parking lot area, and then there's a larger building off to the corner of the lot. And that building out there, that outbuilding is it's in rough shape. It hasn't been
Dilapidated.
yeah, it hasn't been, updated since it was built. There's it's very clearly original. So it's got some character to it, if you will. And the intent always was to focus on the main brewery building, put storage up there. It was in the contract to buy that outbuilding. We didn't really care whether we got it or not. I know that was something that Drake was considering, and just the underwriting worked either way.
Yeah.
So that's a potential, part of the project to advance and capitalize on later. But our budget was strictly for storage, and that we kept our eyes on the prize. I think we did a really good job of not getting distracted on that building. We sealed it up so that like people couldn't be walking through there or anything like that, with actually spare material that we, you're aware, with spare material that we pulled off the building on the exterior forklift ramp. We repurposed it, which helps save some money. But yeah, that building's still sitting there secured, and we're probably, there could be a value add opportunity down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we talked about it before. Pickleball court.
Pickleball court would be really
cool.
awesome.
Right next to a brewery.
Yeah, I mean that would be awesome. Yeah.
So, all right, we got the good feels. We're feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving forward. Architect starts doing his thing. One big hurdle that you already talked about was the elevator. Now, when I started coming on board, there were these huge chillers already in there. Like that alone, I remember, like, I'm just like 2 or 3 weeks into this, and like a lot of big discussions around that. Like, so obviously the downstairs tenant is a brewer, brewmaster, and he has these huge chillers.
Yeah,
pretty much where we're going to turn into self-storage.
Exactly. So I forgot about that. So thanks for bringing that out. You go through this stuff, and it's just the next thing. So, yeah. So the brewery equipment and his walk-in coolers, they both need condensers to cool down the equipment. Well, obviously the cooler, and then the equipment gets pretty hot. So, that one condenser in particular, the specialty condenser, was a massive condenser, and they put it on the second level of the building because they didn't want to put it outside. So one of our objectives was to see what we could do with the chiller. The first thought was, obviously it's going to be expensive to move it outside. So, we did a cost per square foot analysis of if we did like basically walls and had a direct vent to vent this thing outside. Would that save us money in the long run versus putting it outside?
Yeah.
And so, we kicked that to acquisitions because I don't know anything about underwriting storage per square foot, know. So we kicked it to the underwriters, and they evaluated it. And Drake Massa, we worked as a team, and kind of this is what it would cost to build the walls, and this is what it costs to direct vent it, and versus this is what it costs to relocate it. And then since that project is a relatively small footprint, it's about 33,000 square foot of storage. It made more sense to relocate those condensers, especially since there's not a lot of storage in that market, and so every square foot is extremely valuable. That we ended up paying the same company who installed the condenser in 2016 to move it to the outside.
Okay, yeah, I remember that was a unique challenge. That
was the big one. The small one, yes, we also did. Like that one felt way easier of a lift. Still another little hurdle, but the big one was quite a big hurdle.
Yeah, hard pill to swallow, though, definitely. Other things, I mean, so we have an elevator, we have those chiller units, but we also are dealing with an active tenant below.
Yeah. So
who's a major, I mean, these guys are everywhere. Like, they seem very...
They're major. They're a big company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... obviously we want to take care of them. Not only they're operating under there, but they're our tenant now. Yeah. So we're responsible to keep them happy. They're paying us rent. They're paying City Storage and the management company and El Fundo, but it's up to us. We're representing them as well.
Correct.
So it's up to us to keep them happy. So constant communication with the owner. Luckily, the owner was a great guy. We had a cell phone number. We had many talks with him. We were able to help him out on some areas that weren't really our scope of work, but to lend that helping hand. Also, it works both ways. When we had some things that we had to do, he was very understanding. And we did a lot of temporary protection and walled off our areas, especially when we had to cut through the slab to pass through for the elevator. That was a lot. That was definitely a lot. And so he was great during the whole process.
Yeah, they were great. Just some other, I guess, hurdles that we've had to climb on that project. The original plan previous to that was to tap into, our tenant's sewer because we were going to have a bathroom upstairs as well. And then we found out, like, okay, it's just not feasible to do that. So we had to run a whole new sewer line and water tap. That was another kind of small hurdle, but I mean, it still took some time. Just some estimating that we didn't think of at the time.
Right. I mean, you had to coordinate with the permitting department. You had to get a second address. You had to get, all the permits approved and tap fees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, luckily, I didn't do much
You were
of
kind of
that.
hands off at that
You were
point.
hands on, and I was hands
Just
off. And
let me
I was hearing about it, and I was
tread
like,
water.
"That sounds difficult." Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
remember.
would say also because I was not at the initial walk,
Yeah.
but all the columns that were banged up, all the
Yep.
structural columns that had to get repaired and replaced, and just
Yep.
weighing the option like, hey, are we going to concrete fill this, or are we going to actually just replace the whole column and have
Yeah.
our welder do it?
Yeah, so we've dealt with that on on past projects. So as soon as we walked up there, we all saw it, and we knew exactly right away that they were going to call it out.
Yeah.
And the structural engineer, as soon as he did the walkthrough, he was going to call it out because this is what we buy. We buy warehouses with vertical posts, and there's always forklifts running in there. So what happens is the forklifts are moving too fast. They hit the post, and whoever was operating this forklift was going fast. They were going fast, and they whacked up a couple poles.
I think like 9 of them.
Yeah, at least. And so there was 2 varying degrees of replacement. Some of
Yeah.
them absolutely had to be spliced in, and other ones could be, it could have that concrete fill. But I think we just spliced them all, right?
We
You
ended
were
up
running at
splicing
that
them
point.
all.
Yeah, we just spliced it all because they're already out there with the welders, the grinders. They were able to take care of that. But I do remember going up there and seeing that and being like, "Yep,
Yeah.
gonna have to fix that one."
Yeah. I would say, at this time we also brought in a new site super,
Yeah.
Dave, who, he's been in the storage world for a while, and, but this was both our first time dealing with a person elevator, and that was like having to do the elevator pit, the sump pump,
Yeah.
and then start the block work and then tooth everything in. There was constant communication with our elevator company, Schindler, that was just going back and forth. And I remember that also being another, a key memory that sticks out to me, that Ryan gets the shop drawings.
Yeah, the shop drawing and the
He
full
goes,
submittal.
dude, we got to look at this. We got to look at every word. We got to look at this whole thing because they're going to come out and they're going to install per their shop drawings.
What we buy.
That's it.
Yeah.
And any delay is going to be on us and all this stuff. So like, I remember I think we went back and forth on that thing for a couple of days, just looking at it like, okay, let's look at it again and again and again.
And we called out certain things that didn't line up, and we did the math on the clearance and all that stuff. And
which is very hard, especially when you've never built an elevator before, just to what to look for. I mean, it prepped us for next time, but like we got it done. That's for sure.
Because we didn't want to pop the top. We didn't want to remove the roof and the structural there and then kind of go above the roof because that would easily add another 30 to 40 grand, right?
The roof is already good.
Yeah, the roof was in great condition. Yeah. So that was one of our main concerns. And some of the door swings and the precast lintels and all that stuff, we were really diving in because, I mean, honestly, this felt like an elevator project to me. You know what I mean? Like the storage, the lighting, the electrical, all that kind of stuff, we had that all dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff came second nature to us. It really felt like an elevator project. From day one, when we identified the schedule, we said, this is going to be one of our quickest projects. The only hurdle is the elevator. So all we focused on in the beginning was elevator submittals, getting the elevator deposit paid, getting the elevator people on site, picking the access control for the elevator, all those kinds of things. Basically, it just felt like an elevator project to me, at least.
Picking the mason, getting out the bond beams, figuring all that stuff out, like, and that's part of the just going over the submittals is like, what are they not including? That is up for you to figure out. Like, okay, this is what they've given me.
Yeah.
Right now, what do I need to be prepared for? Exactly. Which is a hard thing to figure out because
especially because there's so many things during the inspection period that we have to have on site. It has to be installed, and the elevator will not pass inspection if those things are not there, and all that stuff is, on the elevator contractor. And they flat out told us, like, you absolutely need an elevator ladder in the pit. We can provide that, but we are going to overcharge you by a lot.
Yeah.
So don't buy it from us. And it's like, okay, thanks for being upfront with us, but now we got to find somebody to do the elevator ladder. And we did. Yeah. But, just a lot of that little stuff, sump pumps and coating the pit with waterproofing, and dedicated lighting. Yeah. All that just for the pit.
Just for the pit and the lid. And we had even they had requirements of how much space they needed to offload there and where to store that.
Absolutely.
They were definitely down to the T, like, hey, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out the miscellaneous stuff that we were missing.
Yeah. And it was tricky with the storefront because we wanted to install the storefront, but we weren't sure if they'd be able to fit through the storefront opening, with their elevator and all the equipment. I think we ended up getting the storefront installed, and then they were able to fit
Yeah,
it
I mean,
in.
luckily our tenant from downstairs, he was really cool once again, and just allowed us to use some of his space to house it for the time being.
Yeah.
So that was really nice of him.
Yes.
Lexington. I mean, it seems like it's so far gone because we're already on to 3 or 4 different projects right now. But I mean, it was not too long ago.
So something came up in my inbox the other day that when I was searching for something for Lexington, and I almost forgot. But what a lot of people don't know is that the city of Lexington is actually doing a massive development right next door. So when I was searching for something, we actually ended up getting a proposal. We got an invitation to bid a project nearby, which we turned down. But like they are spending, I think it's about, you can fact check me on this, like $250 million to move the railroad track and basically update all the older mills and brick buildings that are adjacent to the tracks and make them like food courts and breweries and, places to shop.
Yeah.
So like if you've got a good arm, you could throw a football to that area. And it's really exciting. I know when I read through, this was probably about a year ago, I read through, their plans. The city made a whole development packet, and I was reading through it, and I was super excited. I haven't followed up on that recently because, we're in construction. That's not really our niche is not to follow up on community development. But when that came up in my inbox, I got really excited again, and I remembered that we have some prime location.
We do.
Yeah.
Especially absolutely. With that, that auxiliary building that we haven't decided what we're going to do with.
Yeah, that is right next to the development. Yeah. So that building that's on the corner of our lot, that's right next to that development.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Lexington came with a ton of challenges, but at the end, I mean, the project and the end product is outstanding. We've gotten some good compliments on that, and they're much appreciated. But what's your favorite part of the project and the end product?
My favorite part, besides, I think what was really cool, it is in an up and coming cargo district area. When I got a chance to walk the site for the first time, there was a lot of cool things happening around the area, but there was also this building that had this nice cool little mural on it. I was like, oh, that'd be cool if we put a mural on ours. And so the mural, and then, when I also when I first joined, there was these little circular blue paint chips just floating around the office, and everyone was tallying up votes. And I was like, at that time, I was like, I don't even know if I get a vote yet. Like, I saw the tallies, I was like, do I vote on this? And it was for our door color. Like, we were figuring out what door color that was kind of gonna be the city storage staple.
Yes.
And so these polar blue, beautiful doors that just came out, and like when you walk into that building, like those doors just make everything pop.
Yeah.
You got the white liners and these beautiful crisp blue doors that are like
the red brick.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you get the storefront window and we have our displays.
Yeah.
Like that is just like,
that
dang.
looks really cool.
That is like, especially the black trim too. Yeah. That was a good call on the black trim there.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I mean, as you, handed the reins over, and you were taking on bigger and better roles, looking back at this, what would you say, was one of your favorite aspects of this?
Yeah, from the bigger picture perspective, like our fastest conversion yet from acquisitions to door opening for Elm Builders, that feels really good. It feels like a lot of the systems we're putting in place are working, and it's the results speak for themselves. And to have our fastest conversion yet, granted it was a clean building, that played a big role into it. But we had some challenges with the elevators, and so, we have to give ourselves some credit that this was our fastest conversion yet. And on top of that, we came under budget, which, you put those two things together and it's just an absolute win for Elm Builders, but really it's a big win for the investors.
Absolutely.
Because when we come under budget and we hit the schedule, I mean, that just does so much for the returns as far as not depleting interest reserves, not taking a note payable to pay off the overages. Like, there's so many things that happen that get affected in a positive manner by hitting those two metrics. And I'm just so proud of the team.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the whole Elm team. Like, once again, just the fact that, at this time, developing processes and coming up with this amazing budget tracker that had, like, our forecasted variances that we were looking at. And so when we were getting close to the end, when we're getting close to wrapping it up, and we're looking at the fair season, which, was a whole nother thing that, the same guys that inspect fair rides are going to inspect elevators. And now we're on this huge time crunch. It's like, okay, do we have it in the budget to pay for overtime? And like coming up with this beautiful, you and Kyle coming up with a spreadsheet that just literally made it easy to plug and play and say, okay, where are we at real time? Where are we at with the budget? Can we allocate money for this? And how's it going to hurt us, or what's it going to do? And like, even coming in under budget, we still made some risky decisions. I wouldn't say risky, but we made some choices that were like, okay, we didn't plan for this, but like looking at the budget, we're able to forecast and say, okay, hey, we still have a little bit to play with.
Exactly. We felt dialed in. Like we were in touch with the budget at all times. Like we knew we were going to have to, advance the schedule in some way or another, and we had money allocated for it, and we just applied it to the areas that we needed to, and we were constantly checking in as far as where we were at and how much we can spend to push the schedule that much more. You know, that felt really good to really feel that dialed in and kind of, have your finger on the pulse on all the things: schedule, budget, end product, aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, especially, man, I just remember at that time we were dealing with so many things up in the air. New stairs.
Yep.
The fire department coming in, giving us a whole bunch of, or the fire marshal coming in and say, hey, we need an FTC.
3 times they came in.
So many different things going on that we're just like, okay, are we tracking this here? Like, what are we thinking the variance is going to be here? Like, where are we allocating this money? I mean, the stairs was a big hit.
Yeah.
That was huge. I mean.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I mean, you have your building permit, and then you have your fire marshal, which are usually independent of one another. And what ultimately dictates what we have to do is life safety.
Yep.
It has to be totally safe, and this is understandable. It has to be totally safe for everybody involved, for the tenants below, for the people that are occupying our building, for the people that are using our services. It's got to be totally safe. And when you change the use of the building, you have to bring it up to code as far as your life safety. And so every time they'd walk through the building, they'd point something else out that we wish they pointed out the first time. And, obviously it's a big building, and, there's a lot of area to cover, but we were just hoping, like, is this it? Is this it? Like, we kept bringing them out there and be like, okay, we did that thing that you asked. Now, are we good? And they would be like, well, you really need to do, and then they add something else on, right? So, and we want to build a very safe product, because that helps us in the end, right? Yeah. Like our insurance and all that stuff, we want to do the right thing. It's just, we want to know all the things up front as quickly as we can, and can't always get what you want, but you can project for these things that are inevitably going to come. I mean, it's construction. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be, things we didn't account for in the budget. That's why we have a contingency line item. And it just felt really good that, like, every time something came up, we were like, okay, we knew this was going to happen. Yeah. We moved this here, we moved that there, and we have a plan. And then it's just time to execute. Yeah.
Where can we save here, and where can we, because I mean, we did have some major line items there that were like, okay, do we really need this? And I mean, those are always good conversations, and we bring them up to city soldiers like, hey, this is kind of where we're at in the budget. Do we really need this? What options do we have here,
right,
to make this building safe and functional and still look good at the same time? So
that's a huge thing of having it all in house. It's like we can change on a dime. It's like we had $32,000 in for fencing, and we spent $1,200 on the one fence set run that we needed, and we let them know. We said, hey, like, we have this money for fencing. I know we planned on maybe putting a fence here, and then we looked at the flow of the parking and all that stuff, and we're like, we don't need a fence here. It's just going to impede our flow and all the stuff. We don't need any sort of gate or anything. So, we did that early on, and then we just took the money allocated for the fence and we moved it elsewhere.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so that does it for our deep dive into Lexington, one of our fastest conversions, under budget, and I mean, it's a beautiful product overall.
Absolutely.
It's just sitting there at 551 South Salisbury Street in Lexington. If you get an opportunity, go check it out. Google it, get some images, and if you have any questions or comments on our process or how we kind of did things for that project, please comment below. Other than that, I'm Cameron Pleasant, along with Ryan Bono here. Thanks for watching.
Elm Elaborates.